I'd like to call this regular scheduled council meeting to order for February 13th. Would everybody please rise for a moment of silence? And let's remember all the people who passed away during the month of Bristol. Let's please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Fields, you want to do roll call, please?
Mr. Devine?
Here.
Mr. Sabatini? Mr. Pezza?
Here.
Ms. Collins?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Brunel?
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Mr. Dees?
Here. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize, first of all, our Bristol High School boys basketball coach, who was just named a BAL Coach of the Year for Bristol High School. It's a great honor. And also won the BAL championship this year for Bristol High. Also with that, I'd like to recognize Chad Palmer, who was selected boys first team BAL, second team Kennedy Davis, an honorable mention Mike McGuire and Murray Kinney. And we don't want to forget the girls. On the girls' side, first team Morgan Cullen, team Daniela Riley, honorable mention Nicole Calora. Our boys and girls basketball teams this year made the town very proud, and we're very happy to say that they'll be competing in the tournament. Bristol opens up tomorrow night, Tuesday, and if they win and if Holy Ghost wins, I think they meet at Bristol's gym on Thursday night, which hopefully we could pack the gym and send a message. I'm hoping everybody that's here can show up for the game. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Pezza, who would like to recognize Morgan Cullen on an achievement.
Thank you.
Morgan, if you want to come up, and any member of your family.
Why didn't the team come up with her? Because without the team, this wouldn't have happened, and the coaches. Let's go.
Morgan. Come on in, guys. Good. Right. Well, it is my pleasure, first of all, to welcome all of these young ladies. It's been a great year for Bristol basketball, as Mr. DiGiuseppe just said, but it is my pleasure to recognize an exceptional young lady who has been a credit to her school and to her community. A little over a week ago, Morgan Cullen, a senior at Bristol High School, scored her 1,000th point for the girls' basketball team. Morgan has been an exceptional three-sport athlete, throughout her career, having been named to numerous occasions of the Bicentennial Athletic League team in field hockey, basketball, and softball, also being a captain of the field hockey and basketball teams. In addition to her 1,040 points in basketball, she holds a Bristol High record for the most three-point shots in a season made at 60 and has 152 made in her career. This year, she averaged 17.5 points. To me, however, as an educator myself, the real story is that she achieved these athletic milestones while managing to be outstanding in the classroom and deeply involved in extracurricular activities. She has achieved distinguished honors throughout her high school career, is a member of the National Honor Society, is this year's homecoming queen, is a student delegate to the school board, serves on the yearbook committee, is a member of student council, and the chemistry club. With all of her accolades, she never misses an opportunity to recognize her teammates, some of whom, well, all of whom I believe are with us here tonight. So she and her teammates have made their families, their school, and their community proud, and it is my pleasure to award this Certificate of Achievement to Morgan Cullen. Just guessing.
Just say a little something.
I'd like to thank everyone and my teammates and my coaches. Thank you.
We made one mistake. Nicole Kalura also made second team All-BAL. I wanted to correct that. Sorry about that. My fault.
Thank you.
Good job, Coach. Good job, Jones.
Okay, at this time, Mrs. Cullen has a proclamation for the Hibos. Whoever's here from the Hibos, can you please come forward?
Call Kevin Lochran and Kevin Fallon up, along with whoever you have here can come up. Come on, come up. You guys deserve it.
How you doing?
Okay, I'm going to read this proclamation first, then I want to say a few things. Whereas the Council of Bristol Borough desire to congratulate the Ancient Order of Hibernians on their 127th anniversary, whereas the Bristol Borough Council wishes to proclaim the month of March as Irish Heritage Month. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Council of Borough of Bristol that the month of March 2012 will be proclaimed as Irish Heritage Month. This group does an incredible job for this town. They've always been out there giving out scholarships, and they work with the Autism Walk. And when is the date for that? So let's, April 21st, at what time?
Registration 7 o'clock, walk starts at 9.
Registration at 7, walk starts at 9.
Talk about it more.
I appreciate that. But you just do a lot for the community, and we really appreciate it. Would you like to say something?
The Ancient Order of Hibernians was formed 127 years here in Bristol Borough as a place, for the Irish immigrants to get some help, just coming off the boat. And today, because Irish immigrants came over here because of the famine in Ireland, our big push these days is to help keep the hunger at bay. We're very active in the food pantries. Everybody reads about tough times out there, and we do what we can. And it's nice to see Lorraine Cullen, and, really appreciate your help, and President Council, Ralph Giuseppe, and Mr. Lebo. They've all been strong supporters of us in our activities and our endeavors, and I very appreciate it. I really appreciate it a lot. Thank you all.
You're fine.
No, there's some CDs for you guys.
Thank you.
You guys can listen to Irish music in March.
You're allowed to take these?
Proclamation was Italian Day, but we changed it.
We said those Caesars, we call those Caesars, don't worry about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
It's terrible. Do you have anything to
No, I don't. Right. Because I don't feel...
And we have another record, somebody we would like to recognize tonight. Is Darrell here? Darrell Curtis here? Darrell Curtis, is he out in the hallway, or?
Thing. It's a good thing.
We wanted to bring, come on up, Darrell. We wanted to bring Darrell in this evening because I heard about a story last week that Darrell helped out our parking enforcer. Is Jerry here and his wife Helen? Why don't you come up front? Jerry, you can take your glasses off to let everybody.
We'll see what happened to.
Darrell punched him, we just with Robin, I'll turn it over to you.
I happened to see Jerry Friday night at dinner, and I didn't want to comment that both of his eyes are terrifically black, if you can notice. And I was told a story about how Jerry, last Thursday, tripped. He was going into Darrell's shop on Mill Street. It's a barber shop, long-standing barber shop here in town. And Jerry tripped and fell on his face and did quite a bit of damage to himself, to his face, to his nose, etc. And that was bad. And Darrell did what any person would do. Darrell called 911, and an ambulance came for Jerry. However, Darrell did so much more than that. Darrell got towels for Jerry. Darrell called Helen, Jerry's wife. Darrell sat with Jerry, held his hand. I mean, when I heard the story from Ralph about what Darrell had done, I was so impressed. I mean, anybody would go a certain degree to help their fellow man, but what this guy did was over and above what he had to do. And he comforted, and it just meant so much to me. And I know him very well, and I know his lovely mother, Gladys, very well. They're friends of mine. So I really felt that it was important to recognize the kind of community that we have here in Bristol, about how much we care for one another. And so I want to read this proclamation, which I believe really kind of spells out the man that we have here and the kind of a community that we have. So this says, a proclamation of the Borough of Bristol, County of Bucks, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, recognizing and commending Darrell Curtis for his outstanding citizenship. Whereas the limits and well-being of historic Bristol Borough are not in its land or its location, but in how those who live and work here live their lives. And whereas Darrell Curtis has brought honor to himself and to the borough by his outstanding efforts in helping his fellow man. Therefore, be it proclaimed by the Borough Council that Darrell Curtis be publicly recognized and thanks for his assistance provided to Parking Enforcement Officer Jerry Mario on February 6, 2012. It's signed by Ralph, the Mayor, and Council. And I just wish that everybody in this town had a little bit of Darrell in them, because we'd be a better place for it. So, thank
I would just like to publicly thank Darrell for what he did for me. I was really stunned when I fell face first into his door, and I just got a letter this morning from his lawyer. He's suing me for the door.
Can you still sing, though? Can you still sing?
No, what?
Can you still sing?
Oh, yeah. But anyway, that's it, and I'm really,
Good wife.
I just want to thank him personally. Thank you.
I want to thank you.
Amy here from the theater?
Yes, I saw her.
Amy.
Amy,
Center.
Hi, everybody. I'm thrilled to be here on such a crowded night because I'm here to announce a new series at Bristol Riverside Theater that I hope that you will all take advantage of. We are going to begin $5 movie nights at BRT soon, and they're going to be on Sunday and Monday evenings. We got a lot of requests for different kinds of movies, so we're trying out a few different things. We're kicking it off on February 26th with Annie. On March 4th, we have From Here to Eternity. On April 15th, we're doing a whole day with Charlotte's Web, Gone with the Wind, and Spaceballs, for a little bit of variety. And on Monday, April 16th, we're going to have The Wizard of Oz. So I hope that you will all come, enjoy. It's $5 for the movies, and also I hope that you'll tell us what kinds of things you're interested in. We've been hearing for a long time that people wish we showed movies on dark nights, so that's why we started doing it. So if there are particular things that you're interested in, let us know by phone, email, stop in, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And I hope that you will join us for movie night. Thanks.
Okay.
thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Mrs. Collin, you have something you'd like to...
Yes, I'd like to speak on behalf of the Bristol Borough Little League. They would like to announce that registration for the spring season is occurring now through March 18th. Every Sunday afternoon from 12 to 3 at the clubhouse by the baseball fields. We would like to clarify any misconceptions that registration is free. The cost of the registration depends on the number of children from the household being registered. The fees cover the cost of equipment, uniforms, umpires, etc. At the time of registration, we ask the parents to volunteer to sell raffle tickets or to manage the snack stand, which are ways that offset the cost of registration. We will take into consideration if there is a financial hardship deterring you from registering your child. Bristol's Little League has been growing every year, and we would like to see as many children as possible be given the opportunity to play America's favorite pastime. They would like to thank council for their support, and we look forward to a successful season. Thanks for listening to that. And please come out and support.
You have something on, looking for my notes. On the mutual aid agreement.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming, and there has been some other municipalities that had tried to get a mutual aid plan set up, and thanks to Merle as the emergency manager, he stayed on top of this issue. And this past week, Burlington City and the Borough of Bristol entered into a mutual aid agreement that'll provide assistance for firefighting operations. Normally in the borough, we can handle a moderate,
Okay.
medium-sized incident, but once we go into a multiple alarm fire or a mass casualty incident or a large-scale hazardous material incident, we need to call resources from outside of Bristol Borough. Generally, we already have, by being in Bucks County, we draw on those resources first, but being as close as Burlington City is to Bristol Borough, that was available resources that we weren't able to utilize in the past. With this mutual aid agreement now, we'll be able to call Burlington City. Burlington City will be able to call on Bristol Borough to assist each other in a large-scale incident. And in some cases, Burlington City is actually a closer resource than some of the resources in Bucks County. So this is a great benefit for our community. It'll be a great benefit for the city of Burlington. Hopefully, we won't have any large-scale incidents, but sooner or later, at some point in time, we'll be utilizing each other's resources. And I want to thank council for getting this passed. Like I said, there are some other municipalities that had tried to get theirs set up, and we've been the first in the area to do that.
Thanks, Herbie.
Thanks, Herbie.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to have some cooperation from the audience and from council. There's been an issue that's been floating around, and the mayor would like the opportunity to speak on this issue, and when he's done, the chief of police would like to speak on this issue. And at that time, if council has any questions, please address all your questions to the chair, and I will make a decision. If the mayor or the chief elects to answer them questions, at that point, we will. So, Mayor, I'll turn the meeting over to you, and you had asked me to put this on the screen, and it's up there now for everybody to view.
It's unfortunate that we have to talk about something like this after we just recognized our 2 basketball teams and our 1,000-point person. But I was asked to do an investigation in this picture. This picture was seen hanging in the police station. When I first saw it and was aware of it on the 3rd of January, when I went down to the police station to look at it, I did become offensive. I thought it was offensive until I got the story behind it. Okay, everybody thinks that it might be racist. Everybody thinks it might be anti-gay. It's not. Believe me, it's not. The officer that it was directed to, I spoke with him lengthily. I asked him if it was offensive to him. He said no. In fact, he joked about it. Okay, and I'm not getting into the nitty-gritty of the thing of why it was put up there. I immediately told him to take it down, which he did. It's unfortunate that a picture was taken of it, and it was circulated around Facebook. I understand it's been circulated around town. I just found that out today. I was asked to find out who took the picture and how that person got into the police station, okay, which I did. I had a departmental meeting. All the officers attended except one. That person that didn't attend did have a doctor's note for me saying that he was preoccupied. I asked the officers if they were aware of this picture. They said this picture has been up there at least since August of last year. Now, I've been in that station 2-3 times a week since then and prior to that, and if I didn't find it offensive or it didn't sit out on me, I don't know why other people would say it was offensive. My main concern was, and I think council's concern was, who let the person in to take the picture. I'm not concerned about who let the person in to take the picture. What I'm concerned about is, why did they allow that person to take the picture? There's sensitive stuff down in that police department. I was a police officer for 33 years, and I know that there are some things that you should not show the public for evidence reasons, for criminal trials, what have you. Okay? I asked the person that took the picture who let him in. He refused to tell me. I do have a signed statement by an officer that there were 2 officers that did let this person in. And believe me, when I told the person that took the picture, I'm not out to discipline anybody. I would have reamed his butt out and told him not to do it again. My main concern was, why did you allow that person to take the picture? My main concern was, if it was offensive to you, why did you not, when it first put up, why did you not go to the chief of police and say, that's offensive to me, I want it down? He didn't. He waited until the latter part of December, beginning part of January, to make a complaint to it. And he didn't complain to me, and he didn't complain to the chief. He complained to an individual in this room. Okay, and I am upset that, I get up this morning and I read the newspaper that, this sign is racist and all this. The Courier-Times, I believe, is making it more out of what it is. I don't believe it's as big a deal than what everybody else thinks it is. I am asking the Courier-Times, why did they come to the President of Council? It concerned my police department. Why did they not come to me? I have the right to answer any questions that they might have had on this incident. Now, if anybody in this room thinks that that's offensive, apparently somebody did, okay? That's why it was immediately taken down, okay? That stop sign that you see up there, the chief of police gave that stop sign out, I believe, during the dedication to this building downstairs.
I'm asking for silence. I'm going to ask you to leave the room. I'm going to have you removed from the room.
My investigation, when I went around campaigning for mayor, I took a pad and pencil with me, and I asked everybody that I spoke to, what's your main concern? 80% said the operation of the police department. Fine, that's under my jurisdiction. I also said, if you have a complaint, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, if you have a complaint, come to me. Not just verbally, but give me something in writing, something that I have and can do something with. I think I had, since in the 2 years, I had 2 people come to me with a written complaint. And I handled both of them. Everybody can talk about the police department. Everybody can condemn our police officers. We have a bunch of good guys down there. Contrary to what other people think, they are a bunch of good guys. Christ, I recommend, since I've been mayor, I recommended 4 of them be hired. If you have a problem with the police department, come see me. I will discuss it with you. And I know people are saying, well, we're afraid of retaliation. Well, if I find that it's a just complaint, and I find out that if I do discipline the officer, and I find out that that officer does something, that person is gone. He's gone. So on that investigation, that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a done deal. I don't want to hear about it anymore. It's a done deal. Now, without getting into the grid of everything concerning a lawsuit, I did send a letter to the district attorney. He's a very good friend of mine, a very close friend of mine. There were a couple allegations in that lawsuit that I was concerned about. I spoke with him twice last week and again this morning. I requested that he investigate some of the allegations. He told me that it's nothing criminal. There's no criminal allegations there. It's all civil. So he suggested that I wait until the outcome of the lawsuit. If it's dismissed, fine. If not, fine. Okay? And then I asked him also, is there an ongoing investigation by the grand jury? He said, absolutely not. I asked him, is there or was there one? Was there one? He said, yes, there was. For 18 months, the grand jury did investigate. Hold on. The grand jury did investigate the borough as a whole. They found no criminal activity. But he did leave me with this thought. A lot can happen in the next 48 hours. So with that, I'm done with this investigation concerning that, and I'm done with anything that has to do with the grand jury.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to hear from the chief. Microphone.
I'll echo some of the things that the mayor just said, but Mr. Devine's accusation... I'm sorry.
You want to speak from here, chief, or?
Mr. Devine's accusation...
Chief. Wherever you're comfortable.
I'm comfortable right here. Mr. Devine's accusations of racism and anti-gay behavior existing in our police department is baseless, without any merit, and quite frankly offended every police officer in our police department. Every officer. Now, by concocting those allegations, you're saying that all the police officers that worked here over a one-year period, that'd be 19 officers, 2 secretaries, 2 parking enforcement officers, and the mayor, all condone and tolerate discriminatory behavior. And that just is not the truth. Not before that picture was posted, and not after. Now, I'm not going to go into the playful, innocent story that's behind that picture. I can tell you every police officer in this borough knows the story behind it, as well as you probably do too. And there's not a bit of discriminatory or offensive behavior involved in that. Whether you take that sign as in part or whole, there is none. I'm concerned about all the time and the effort and the energy that's put into this non-issue. I've been around a lot of years, just like the mayor has. I've never tried to embarrass this police department or this town or any council person working to better this community. So that's why tonight I'm not going to ask you, in front of everybody here, for my concern, I'm not going to ask you why you feel that's offensive.
You can ask me.
Yeah. At some point, outside this room, I'd love to hear what your opinion is.
No, we want to hear it now.
But just to see what your thought processes are, just to see what makes you think that that's offensive.
I can open that up. I would like to answer that question.
Okay. That's up to you.
I would like to answer that question.
Please, let me just finish. Every officer, like I said, knows that story behind that. Your concern with that, I think you need to not be concerned about that. I think you should know what the facts are before you bring something on the Borough Council floor. We have some hardworking, all of our department, hardworking officers, dedicated. They protect this town, they keep us safe. And I just hope that you're not setting the tone on how you're going to be treating our officers, because they just don't deserve that. They just don't. As far as, I'll say the same thing that the mayor just said. As far as that photo is concerned, that picture, there's nothing more to say about it. There is just nothing more that I'm going to say about it tonight here.
I just have one more thing to add. I guess because of the festivities that we did this prior to my speech, I did forget one important item. This lawsuit that's against the borough and me, it's against me, okay, came from an incident that occurred in 2008. 2008. I was not the mayor at that time. I inherited a problem, and I am going to try to resolve it the best I can. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. President, I know Mr. Devine has a lot to say, and I would like to just jump in ahead because I know Mr. Devine has a lot to say. So I just want to say a few things, and that is, over the last few weeks, I've sat silently along with some of our other council people while this back and forth about the picture has happened. And in many ways, I've been frustrated by the conversation, and I haven't felt that the conversations have been all of that productive in the way in which this unraveled. But muddled in all of this back and forth, in my opinion, have been some very important points that have been lost. First, I want to make it very clear, and I mean this. I think the overwhelming majority of our officers do an exceptional job and that they are professionals. And I believe that, and I think most of the people in this room believe that as well. Whomever, is on whatever side of this issue, I think most of us believe that and accept that, and I believe that to be the truth. I also think that part of what makes Bristol exceptional, and I mean this too, it's why I love to live here, is how very diverse a community we are. And not just that we are diverse, but that we have gone to the same high schools together, we know our parents are friends, we're friends, and this is a very divisive issue, and it's been trying for a lot of people that have had to sit here and, really kind of wrestle with this ourselves. Finally, I've said this to Mr. Devine himself, and he will tell you this. I don't agree with the way in which it was done. However, if such an accusation is made, it needs to be taken seriously. And with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, I don't hear any details as to what that is. And, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't know what that is. And certain people are obviously interpreting it a different way. I understand that you've made your recommendation that you're done with it, but I honestly don't know what that means. And in my opinion, again, I don't agree with a lot of what Mr. Devine's done here, and we've had this conversation. However, in my opinion, we need more details. These are serious accusations, and they need to be taken seriously. And I don't think this speaks for what the Bristol Borough Police Department is. And I think if we just leave this hanging out there and just say, we're done with this, well, it actually paints the Bristol Borough Police Department in a worse light than it would have before. I need more details. So that's my opinion. I would also like to say, however, and again, with all due respect, because I know you've had a long career as a police officer and you deserve that respect. It is your job. You said it yourself. You're the mayor. And we need to hear from the mayor on this. And I need more. That's all I'm saying at this point.
It's up to you.
Okay. I'm going to tell you the story behind this picture. Okay, and this is why I feel it's a dead issue. If you look at it, yes, it is a black man dressed with gold chain, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Excuse me, I'm doing the talking. Okay, thank you. Tupac. His name is Tupac. Tupac, whatever.
Terrence, you're either going to remain quiet or I'm going to have you removed from this room. That's your choice.
He was killed in 1976, or 1996. He was killed in 1996. The officer that this was put up against was a great fan of his. He loved him. He loved his music. One day he come walking in to the police station, off duty, dressed like him. Okay? Cops can be ball busters, big time. Big time. And ever since then, that's what these cops have been doing to him. He's not offended by it. He thinks it's a joke. He thinks it's a joke. That's the story behind the picture. And that's why I immediately had it taken down that night. And through my investigation, I think it's a dead issue.
And what about, you know about that as well? Because I've heard other things about, I like Wiener.
I like Wiener. Dogs. He has Wiener dogs. Okay, everybody might have thought it was something else, but it's not. It's about Wiener dogs, which he has. I believe he has 2 of them, if I'm not mistaken. That's it. I'm not doing anything.
Thank you.
You feel better with...
I certainly feel better with an explanation. And, I just think we've discussed a number of times that how great and exceptional police force this is. And we wouldn't be doing them a service without getting that whole story. And if that's the story, then I will choose to believe what you are reporting back. But I do think it's important that there are details. Thank you.
I'm glad that you asked him for details, because I had heard the same story that you just said. And I think all of us, well, a lot of us have heard that. But on another note, I feel like Bristol has never had a race problem, ever. And I have my mother sitting in the audience, and she went to Bristol High. She's been here her whole life. And she said to me, We've never had a race issue in this town, and she hates the fact that we're bringing it up now, like we're trying to act like there is one, and there really isn't one. We all get along in this town, race, color, creed, it doesn't matter. And there's so many churches in this town, everybody gets along. I just don't like that we're starting something that we don't need to start in this town, that we've never had before, and I'm offended by it.
Mr. Devine.
Yeah. The first thing I want to do, Mayor, I want to refresh everybody's memory. The investigation wasn't about the picture. The investigation directed to you by the council president was for who let me in the police department to see it. That was the investigation. I was never aware that we were investigating anything about the picture. The only investigation that was brought to our attention, and I mean, it was during the, it was on TV. It was for specifically who let me in the police department. And he wants to know who let me take the picture. That was the biggest concern. He wasn't concerned with the picture, which I was. Now, the thing about it is this. If I was in the position at the time that the president was, I would have took it seriously, and my first thing would have been, who put the picture up? What does it mean? Why would that picture be there? And I asked a simple question. If there was one black officer, would that picture have ever been up there for more than 30 seconds? That's a simple question I ask, because everyone asks, well, is it racist or not? Listen, I'm not black, but I have family members who are. And I know for a fact, I see that it offended the heck out of me. So, with that said, ask yourself that question. If there was one black officer, would that picture be there? And the answer to that is absolutely not. So to spin it, to say that you have an officer who loves Tupac, and he has wiener dogs, and it's this small. I'm an 8th grade teacher. My 8th grade kids wouldn't get away with that, because it's wiener, and then as an afterthought, dogs. It's a joke. I mean, if worse, it's just an embarrassment. And the thing about it is, the way to handle is this. Don't try to act like it doesn't exist, like it's not a problem. If you just addressed the issue like we talked about, we would have been able to handle it. But you wanted to say it wasn't offensive.
I don't find it offensive.
Okay. But that's
Everybody has an opinion, Tony.
You're right.
When I understand that this officer idolized this rapper, I don't find that offensive.
I don't either.
If I had a picture of Martin Luther King on my desk, or I had a picture of Frank Sinatra on my desk, and next to that there was something that says, I like this. If you're looking at 3 different issues, which was on this board, and that's what the mayor just explained to everybody, that the kid has dachshunds that he likes. It didn't say I like wieners, it said I like wiener dogs. He idolizes Tupac, which there's nothing wrong with that, is there? And the chief handed out stop signs to all the police officers, don't forget to wear your vest. Now, during all these letters flying around and things mailed to the carrier and all this stuff, the stop sign's been moved on top of the wrap, all that's been photoshopped. The original picture is up on the board. You found it offensive. I don't have a problem with you saying you find something wrong with that.
Sure you did.
And
You had a problem with it because you said that I'm trying to make the police department look bad,
your
and
first,
the mayor looks bad.
the first meeting, you weren't even sworn in yet. The night you got sworn in, you made a statement that the police department, or whatever, you found a picture down there that you found that was racist and anti-gay.
And I still believe that.
And that's fine. And I said to the chief and to the mayor, find out what's going on and find out why you were allowed, more than anything, to take a picture in the police department.
You were concerned with
There should be no individual in this building that should be allowed to go into a police department and take pictures of what's hanging up down there. And if you were handling it right, and since you are a rookie, and you agree to that, you should have said to the mayor and to the chief, I toured the police station, and I found something that really disturbed me. Can we figure out what's going on before you make this thing a major public issue that our police department, and like the chief said, these guys have to work together every day, and they work with every race that's in this town.
Well, I'm going to tell
And
you.
to put them in a position to make it that there's racism downstairs is very bad for our police department.
Okay. Now, with that said, the reason I brought it, just so everyone knows, and I am a rookie, I was made aware of that plenty of times. The reason I brought it up at the time, because it was a reorganization meeting. I thought that that information would have been very important to know before we would reorganize. It wasn't for any other reason. And then the second reason I made it is because exactly what just happened. If I went to the mayor and I went to the chief and I went, right, and I went to you, it would have never got out of that door right there. It would have never made it out of the
You
door.
don't know that, you never asked.
It never would have made it out of the door. That's what would have happened. All right, and the second thing is, the next thing that we want to talk about, I want to clarify, okay, with the chief. Chief, all due respect, I know you've been there a long time. But to say that the picture has been up there, all right, and you didn't know anything about it, it's not a problem. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a bunch of people playing around. It was reported, I have an incident report here, by an officer who reported. He thought it was offensive. There's an incident report. This isn't, I have an incident report right here with it, and it was in August. Okay? It was in August, and it was still up there. So it wasn't like it was just there and nobody saw it. What happened was, and this is what bothers me, is that it became part of the atmosphere. It became part of the atmosphere down there. So what happens is, when it doesn't mean anything, right, you get used to it. So when I went, and of course, when I went on that tour, it was only to see the building, the renovations, everything. I asked, because I was brand new, I asked Mr. President, he's also brand new. He thought it was a good idea for us to go check it out. I happened to go over there, the first time I went over there, and it was locked. It was closed down for the day or whatever. So I couldn't make it that time. And then when I went in, the first thing I see is I walk in, I wasn't in any private areas, I wasn't in any secure areas, just a regular walkthrough that any other resident would have did with an officer or anything. It wasn't like I was there by myself, I don't have a key. The first thing I see is this picture. The first thing I see, I turn, I see immediately, I see a black man with a gold chain. Immediately, it's offensive to me. Now, if I was only there to see that, right, I wouldn't have continued. I continued on with the tour just to check everything out. And there were some great things that are going on. I love the new setup that we have there. But I also saw that we have a chair downstairs, a holding cell chair, that needs to be bolted down. This is another issue. So, like when you say that people shouldn't be walking around, I was elected for that reason. To see things, to make actions that I feel are appropriate and that are going to benefit the welfare of this community, which is Bristol Borough. That's the reason. So, I also have a copy. Now, here's the other thing I don't understand, is that we have a policy, a very specific policy on harassment and discrimination. This is the biggest thing. We have a policy on it, but we don't have a policy on allowing residents to be toured through the police department. But the only direction that we got from our president of council, by himself, with nobody else's consent, was for the mayor and the chief to find out who let me in the police department. And the only thing I see is, why didn't he want me in? Because you didn't want me to see a picture? Look, let's deal with the issue. Let's deal with the issue. Solve the issue and get on with it. When you say I'm trying to make it a bigger issue, no. It was a small issue. By you saying that you don't find it offensive and trying to spin a story on it, right? That's what makes it the mountain. Not the small thing. I was trying to keep it small. Now, I'm going to read okay? I'm going to read, this is part of our policy, and I think this is important. 2 years ago, a memo was posted reminding all officers that we are police professionals and should be aware of our coworkers' feelings and sensitivities when addressing communications to each other. Recent circumstances require reinforcement of that premise. Since anonymous note writing and placement of notes, cartoons, etc. may be construed or interpreted by an individual officer or group of officers as a form of harassment will no longer be tolerated. Officers are encouraged to report any conduct they feel of harassing nature. It was done. This was done.
When?
Who's asking when?
It's Tony, you need to discuss.
This is it. This is the policy, okay? The policy dealing with harassment and discrimination in the workplace outlines the procedure, and I'll open it. The first thing is, it is this policy of law enforcement agency that all employees have the right to work in an environment free of all forms of harassment. This agency will not tolerate, condone, or allow harassment by employees, whether sworn or civilian, or other non-employees who conduct business with this agency. This agency considers harassment and discrimination of others a form of serious employee misconduct. Therefore, this agency shall direct an immediate action to prevent such behavior and to remedy all reported incidents of harassment and discrimination. So what I'm saying is this. We have one policy about discrimination and harassment. We do nothing about it, we ignore it. But we want to put a policy in that doesn't allow citizens or residents or whoever to tour. To me, that sounds like I'm hiding something. What do you want to hide? Because look, we want to do another policy. We want to write another policy, and we don't follow this one. What's the purpose? What's the purpose? Now, with that said, I think that that picture, which was reported by an officer in August of 2011, and it wasn't even brought to my attention because it doesn't even say anything about being racist in here. It's about harassment. Maybe that officer didn't even feel. He saw it as harassment to him. I saw it as racist, and I still feel that way. So, any other questions or concerns? Tell me where I'm wrong. No? With that said, I want to say the same to Lorraine and Greg. This has been a great community. We have, listen, I grew up on the best street in Bristol Borough, in Elm Street. Okay? It's diverse. It's black, Puerto Rican, Italian, and Irish. What makes up the borough on all 4 days down that wharf? Puerto Rican Day, Italian Day, Celtic Day, and African American Day. They all lived on Elm Street. And that's how I grew up. So there's not any, listen, the problem is when you ignore it. That's where the problem starts. Address the issue, deal with it, and move on. If there's a situation, let's deal with it. Because if we can't depend on the police department to be fair and just, we don't have anything. We're going to have turmoil. And that's what Mexico's going through right now. Because when you can't trust or you can't believe the people who are supposed to serve and protect you, that's where we have a problem. Now, I know that there are great officers on that field, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. Let's nip it in the bud. Let's nip it in the bud now. That is the goal. Not to make a mountain out of a molehill. Let's nip it in the bud and let's say what it is. Let's not act like it's something else. It is what it is. That's it.
Done, Mr. Devine?
Yes, thank you.
I want to thank the mayor for letting us really know what this picture was about. And I think we should get behind the mayor 150%. This mayor did a lot for this community. And I waited to listen to the mayor, the police chief. Our cops in this town are the best in Bucks County. I don't find the picture expensive, and I stuck by what the mayor says. Thank you.
I have nothing constructive to add.
Instead of us, and I know there's a lot of people who would like to speak on this issue, but I'm going to recognize one person that's in the audience tonight that I know personally, Mr. Jordan. John, would you like to go to the podium and give us your opinion on what's going on?
I'm just going to give a...
I don't want to put you in a position, you know what I mean, John?
It's all right. My name's John Jordan. I represent the Pennsylvania NAACP. I've known President for a long time. I know the police chief. I know the mayor. And I agree with all of the things that were said this evening about the great diversity that this township and that all of Bristol has. What I don't agree with is the denial that there is racism amongst us, and that we need to address it, and we need to nip it in the bud when it comes to light. I don't think anything should be swept under the carpet. We have policies in place. Those policies are to protect whether it's gender related, whether it's sexual orientation related, or whether it's race based. Those policies are in place to protect everyone who's employed and all of the people that do business with this township. With that said, what I see, and when the picture was sent to us, is a black man in a hoodie. And right above it, there's a sign that says, "Stop. Don't forget to wear your vest." Now, what message does that send? And what culture does that set up when an officer is in the field and he sees a young man dressed like that, and then you have to read in the paper about an officer reacting aggressively or using his gun or feeling that he has to have a vest on because a person looks like that? So a lot of our young men look like that, and they are not troublemakers. They are good students. They are good residents. And I just don't want that culture. The fact that what disturbs me the most is the fact that the picture was up from August to January, and that people walked by this picture, and that people went on with their daily activities, and it didn't bother anybody. That tells me that there's a culture that needs to be addressed, that something's wrong with that particular culture. Because same way that officer in August who filed a complaint, and that complaint has evidently fallen on deaf ears, something's wrong.
John,
And all I can say is please address it. Please don't sweep it under the carpet. We're better than that. We're a better community than that. So that's all I have to say. One more thing. I am glad and thankful that when you found out that you had it removed immediately. It just disturbs me it wasn't removed in August when the officer brought it to your attention. That's all.
John, thank you very much. Chief.
Just want to say one thing about, if it's the same incident that I recall back in August. The incident was an informational incident. The officer had left his bottle of water out in the patrol area, which has happened before in the past, and it disappeared. Somebody took that water bottle and put it in the trash, tired of seeing it out in the patrol area. There was no mention of anything being offensive. There was no mention of the picture itself, of wiener dogs, of Tupac. There was nothing in that report at all, except the magnet that I'd passed out about 5-6 years ago was on that board, saying, "Stop, make sure you're wearing your vest." That's all. That's all was mentioned in that report. Nothing offensive, nothing reporting, nothing wanting any action taken, just the water bottle was taken. And oh, by the way, there was a magnet on that Squad 3 desk, which the officer was on Squad 3 at the time, but he always worked off of different squads desk at the time.
So the complaint that was filed wasn't filed about the picture or anything like that?
No, sir, no, it wasn't.
I have a question.
Thank you.
I have a question to the mayor. Was that magnet on top of this drawing? Was a magnet holding, I'm just curious.
If you saw the plect in that picture, that's the way it was. It wasn't on top of the drawing of the figure person
It was holding
that I
the paper
saw,
up?
on Facebook.
All right, I just wanted to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
While we're on the subject, I'm going to take public comment on it, but again, I'm not going to sit here and have people, and I think John would agree with me, badgering the police chief, the mayor, or any member of council. So if you want to go to podium on this issue and speak, we'll give everybody an opportunity to speak. Okay, nobody would like this?
Name and address again?
For the record, state your name and address.
Terrence Hall, 200 Pond Street. Okay. We're going to go back on January 3rd again. You said you never seen the picture, you didn't care to see the picture, right?
Terrence, I'm not getting in. You want to state what you have to say, and we'll listen to you.
Okay. You said that you didn't see the picture, you don't care to see the picture, but you don't find the picture racist or offensive or anti-gay. How can you say that when you didn't see the picture? Mr. Lebo, you told me before that you didn't see the picture and you visit that police station at least twice a week since August, correct?
Correct.
Correct. The picture Tony Devine mentioned, as soon as you walk in the police station to that door, it's right there. So you didn't walk through that door?
It's not right where the door is.
It's not where he said it was
You have
at?
to go back, when you come in the front door, you make a left, you go back a hallway,
All right.
and that's where the squad area is.
Okay, you don't visit that area?
Yes, every time I go by it to see the chief.
Okay, so that picture's up in August, but you told me you didn't ever seen that picture.
I never saw that picture. It didn't stand out on me.
Okay. Chief
Because
Porter.
if I can add,
Go ahead.
if I did see it,
Mhm.
it would have been taken down immediately.
Okay. But you're in there twice a week, at least?
Yeah.
Okay. Chief Porter.
Look, you need to
Hey, I gotta address you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. King. I don't want to talk about the Tupac issue at all, because I got other stuff to worry about. Worry about the dirt hill right now. We go talk about
Not
that?
on the dirt, we're on this
Okay, well, I'm
police
talking about
thing.
Tupac then. If I got video in my pocket right now with two of your police officers, how would you feel about that? Can I play
Have a
that?
problem with the police?
Can I play it?
If you have a problem with a police officer...
Can I play this?
No,
Okay.
you can't.
No problem.
Then you need to set up a meeting with the mayor and the chief,
Uh-huh.
and they will sit down and listen to whatever complaints you have and address them.
Okay, but why should I do that when you, the town council president, told them not to address anything unless you say so? I should address
Now,
you.
what I said was, if you were paying attention,
Okay,
that you addressed all your questions to the chair,
okay,
and then it will be up to me to ask the mayor if he would like to respond.
Okay.
I'm not going to have you badger the mayor, the chief, or any member of council as long as I'm president of this council.
I respect that. You should allow me to do that.
So you ask the question
To
to
you.
me, and then if they want to answer the question, if Mr. Devine or Mrs. Cohen or Mr. Pezza feels they want to answer the question, that will be up to them. They'll choose to make that decision. So what other questions do you have?
I'm confused right now. You just done lost me.
Why don't you just ask me the questions and we'll go
Because you just
from
not
there.
said, if they choose to answer it, they can answer it. But you told me to ask a question to you, and if you choose for them to answer it,
All right.
Which one
This
is it?
isn't Bud Ave and Lou Costello.
You got me messed up. That's what I'm thinking. This is first base, second base, third base. What's
Exactly.
going on?
So what questions do you have?
I guess I had directed to you. I was going to the Chief Porter, but I guess I go to you.
You don't go to Porter, you go to me. What's the question?
It's a police issue, though.
All right, what
Are you in the
is,
police force?
do you have anything else?
Yes.
Okay, what is your question?
All right. You said that you did not find that picture racist or offensive, but you never looked at it. I don't know how you can find that racist, not offensive, you never looked at it. That's your finding. Can you explain that to me?
When I seen the picture, which I explained to you the other night, after I seen the picture, at that point, I found nothing wrong with that picture. When I got the explanation from why it was up there, that we have an officer downstairs that idolizes this rapper. There's nothing wrong with that in my mind.
Either I got a
So that's
bad
my
memory,
answer. What's your next question?
either I have a bad memory, or my website page was hacked or something, because you said you never seen the picture, don't care to see the picture last Monday.
Okay, what's your next question?
I want to get on the dirt hill. Like I said, I don't want to do the Tupac thing. I can kill you on that one, so I ain't going to do the Tupac thing. We're going to do the dirt hill. I'll wait for that one.
The dirt?
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll wait for that. I can just
I'll
back up.
give you the opportunity to come back and speak on the dirt.
Appreciate it.
Does anybody else want to speak on this police issue? Please state your name and all for the record.
Cindy Later, Mansion Street.
Can you please go to so the microphone will pick you up?
I thought it was the policy of the borough not to comment when there are ongoing lawsuits or litigations going on.
Correct.
And this picture in question is mentioned in Officer Webb's lawsuit, so why are we discussing it in an open forum?
Because there's a ongoing lawsuit, and we felt that this needed to be discussed because we don't find anything wrong with it.
But that's two sides.
Well, that's up to
two
Officers
standards.
Webb's attorney then to say that we should have never
No,
discussed it.
you shouldn't even be talking about it. Do you have an attorney that has any brains that, you shouldn't even be addressing that?
Okay, what else do you have?
The other thing is the dirt hill. When is
We'll
that gonna
discuss
be
that
fixed?
next, and I'll listen to whatever concerns you
Okay,
have.
and I just can't believe you can't find this picture offensive. Has any of you gone home and listened to Tupac's or watched his CDs and the language in those CDs, and you don't find any of that offensive, but you think it's all right for an officer to admire somebody like that?
I can't,
And the other thing is, there is racism in Bristol Borough. I worked at the Little Wawa in Bristol Borough, and one night when the Big Wawa was closed, one of your police officers, and I'll quote him word for word, came in and we were talking about the Big Wawa being closed down, and he said, well, you don't have to worry about that because none of those other efforts are getting across Green Lane.
you're out of line.
Mr. DJ.
And I will go to Mayor Lebo. The officer's retired now.
There is a civilian complaint review board in place that if you have a problem with, you can file
No,
a...
I'll go to this, I don't trust any of you in this room with the exception of Mr. Pezzi, Lorraine, Tony, and the mayor, right
That's
now.
good.
So if I have a problem, but that is exactly what I experienced with your police officers, and they are very prejudiced, a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Can I make a recommendation, just based on, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of things to say, and a few things I want to make clear is that I'm just looking for answers. I'm not looking for, I don't want people to think that I think I think there's a resolution to this, let's put it that way. We're going around in circles. And I would ask, and maybe recommend, that maybe Mr. Devine and the mayor get together, and maybe in a month they come back, because right now, there's a problem. Whether we agree or disagree what that problem is, there's a problem. People are disagreeing over what that picture is.
Well, I think everybody has an opportunity to speak, and that's what I'm trying to do.
I'm just saying, can we also maybe put in place something?
Mr. Devine,
Okay.
state your name and all for the record.
Tim Davis, Elm Street. I have a question for you. Tony asked you a question. He said if you had a black officer on the force, would that picture be appropriate? And
You
would
can
you
ask me that question.
I'm asking you, yes.
Would it be appropriate?
Yes.
I don't know. We would have to ask the black officer if he found it offensive or not. I don't know how he would feel.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
One of my partners was Jimmy Jones. We all know Hound Dog,
Yes.
okay? And I can rest assured that if he saw that picture in the police station, he would probably find it not offensive. Because, hold on, because he himself has put pictures up like that when he was a police officer.
I gave you a warning last time.
Okay, so
Well, like they said, you can't speak for him. But at the same time, you know, Mr. Jones, we all know that, you know, he had a problem, and he had a hard time advancing to a level that he should have been advanced on. With the seniority that he had, okay, and being the only Afro-American police officer on the force, okay, from my understanding, he didn't leave under happy terms. And you know, I know you. I mean, you're a fair man. But the problem is this: yes, there are police officers who are racist on the force, just as well as there are good officers on the force. 18% black in Bristol. No Afro-American cops. Okay? Now, I've heard people say, and I grew up on the street where it's black, white, Puerto Rican, okay? The police department should reflect the borough or community that it's in. And for you to say that you don't find it offensive, to me, it's a problem. And, you know, coming up in Bristol, you know what the perception is. You know, on a whole, everybody generally is together. Everybody, you know, does, you know, want to live together.
You sitting there think that I'm racist?
I don't want to say that you're racist, but what I will say is that you have a bias. And, you know, on a professional level, and as an international business provider, I found it very hard to not, I don't want to disrespect you, but I had a proposal in which the mayor, when I spoke to the mayor, liked, and was told that I would be allowed to bring someone in to present what I had for the borough that would generate a lot of residual income for the borough. In fact, I talked to officers where my plan would generate income, residual income, so that we can add more officers to the force. Okay? Was told that I would be on the agenda, and according to my sources, it was yourself, Mr. Dillon, got together, and I didn't even get a chance to be heard after the mayor told me to bring Mr. Solomon in, who's a multimillionaire, who's backed by Donald Trump, to come in and allow me to present, you know, what I had.
You really believe that we didn't want you to come in?
Well, that's what I was told, sir.
By who?
Mr. Dillon, the day of, I was going around town putting up posters and everything. The day of. Now, according to Mr. Dillon, you were supposed to be in the room in the meeting. Okay? And I went around town, I had people, you know, hey, I'm getting ready to present something, and I think it's going to benefit the borough, and your name was the holdup. So, I don't want to say that you're racist, but I think that you're very insensitive to the issue.
I don't think so. I mean, your family grew up, I grew up with your family.
I know. But that's why I said insensitive to the issue.
So, all right.
All right.
Anybody else would like to speak on, please?
Jason Grisalia, 583 Linden Street. Just to touch on what Mr. Jordan said about, is that his name, Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
About the picture, that picture was a picture of a black male with a hoodie on, with a stop sign saying, make sure you wear your vest, or whatever it was. That does put a reputation out on these young black males that are running the streets of Bristol, that are coming in from Bloomsdale, that are coming in from the Terrace, that are coming in from Winter Village. I hear it every day, that these kids are asked to leave Bristol Borough. I hear it every day. They're asked to leave Bristol Borough because they've never seen them before, and because they are being stereotyped, and that's what that picture's doing.
Okay.
You know, it's just, so for there to be statements made that our police force isn't racist. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some, like Tim said, there are some that are, and yes, there are some that aren't. There's some great cops on the force. And I've heard it from officers' mouths in parking lots at the Bass Street Market. Well, we got to stop the young kids from, again, Bloomsdale, Terrace, and Windsor Village, stop them from coming in, and we're going to be a better town. That's not the case. Just because they dress like that doesn't make them dangerous to our society.
My name is Pat McLaughlin. I live at 811 3rd Avenue in Bristol, and I live in the North Ward. I want to say that Tony Devine knows I didn't vote for him because I told him why I wouldn't vote for him. I came right out and said to him, Tony, you have to tone yourself down. I told this to people who asked me to vote for Tony. You've got to tone it down. You come on too hard. You can get more with a jar of honey than you can with a bottle of vinegar. And you walked on this floor of this assembly with a bottle of vinegar. We don't want that. We want harmony, not only for Buckley Street. We want it from Buckley all the way up in the North 1 and North 2. We want you to represent us. That's why we voted. That's why you were voted in, to represent the people. Now, there was a lady that got up here and spoke. I had to listen through the whole meeting of her calling you an MFer, and she said it right out. Now oh yes you did, ma'am. Yes you did. You said it several times. No, you said it very loud. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm 80 years old and I never heard the language like came out of your mouth.
Tupac says it all the time.
I would listen to him because of that. Whether he was white, black, or purple. I made the remark to her. She says, you're not black, so you don't know. I have a niece.
I didn't say that.
And yes, you did.
She has.
Well, let me lady next to you.
No,
Just a minute. You had your chance. Now give me my chance.
let her talk.
She said, you're not black. All right, I am. I'm white. And I'm part Indian. But I have black in my family. And I'm very proud to say that. Because they are the sweetest people you would ever want to meet. They don't use language like you. They're not street people. There's such a thing as an education. And if you're educated, then you will not use that kind of language. The woman that was in front of me, too, I know she's my age. And if my kids ever heard you use a language like that in behind me, I don't know, and it's disgusting because it's not acceptable. It's not racist. It's just not acceptable. And the sooner you learn that, the better off you're going to be. So that's all I have to say. And as far as the police department is concerned, I think we have the best police department around because I have an alarm system. And if anything goes on, and I live in the North Ward, I don't live in West Ward or South Ward, or I live in the North Ward, they come right out. I didn't even have a chance the other day. I might have thrown clothes on my remote, I don't know, but the panic button was pushed. The police officer was there. He said to me, my neighbor called me and said, Pat, do you know that the police officers are on their way? I said, for what? I'm sitting watching TV. And she says, because when you hit the panic button, there is no, there's no sound or anything. So I had no idea that I could have done this. I don't know how it happened, but I'm sitting there watching a movie, She calls me and I said, "What?" She said, "The police are on their way," because she gets a call first. And then she called me, and by the time I got off the phone from her and went to the door, there the police were. And that's what I've got to say. We have a wonderful police department. We have a very good council. Everyone, including you, Tony.
Thank you.
But tone it down. Tone it down.
Can I address that?
We're not getting into this.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for the record, Pat, for the record, she's been talking about me for a long time, so don't let it bother you.
No, I wasn't.
President.
My name is Bill Pez. I live in the East Ward on Pond Street. I want to make clear that I'm speaking for myself and only myself, and I'm sure there's some family members who will be disappointed with me for getting up here at all later, but I cannot let this night pass without commenting. Over 100 years ago, Supreme Court Justice John Harlan said, and it was one of the great judicial statements in American history, he said the United States Constitution is colorblind. The Bristol that I know, with all of its problems, racism exists throughout the country. But the Bristol that I know, the Bristol I've grown up in, the Bristol I live in today, is colorblind. It knows no distinction between races. When I think of the people that had an impact on me growing up, for the first 23 years of my life, I lived next to a black man, Arthur Brisbane, a wonderful man. When I was thinking about going to college and I didn't want to go because I didn't want to leave that Grundy clock, it was Arthur Brisbane who sat me down and said, "You need to go to college." When I worked at Pat DiLorenzo's drugstore on the corner of Washington and Wood, Pat had a co-pharmacist named Bill Reed, a black man, one of the finest men I knew. And he used to look at me as a kid, and I was a kid, and I didn't know what I was doing, hanging out on the street corners the same way everybody else did. And Bill Reed used to look at me and say, "What are you doing with yourself? What do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years or 10 years? He wasn't a black man. He was a man taking an interest in a kid. And one of the highest moments of my life was in August of 1963 when Bill Reed brought a portable TV to work. And he set it up in the back room of the pharmacist's office. And he played live with me Martin Luther King's address, the I Have a Dream speech. It was an unbelievable experience. That stuff, this may sound trite, but all of us can share those stories. This is our town. I see Norman Davis in the back of the room. I remember when Norman skipped a couple summer football practices. His father walked in one day, he was the biggest man I ever saw. And he went up to Teddy Colwell and he said, "Is this your coach?" And Teddy Colwell said, "Yeah, I'm the coach." And he said, "If my son ever misses a practice again, you call me." Okay? We played football together. We hung on street corners together. That's the town I know. And to rake it through the coals. One more, I have to do this for Hannibal Twitty. In my senior year, Marsville football game, we're winning by 1 point. Marsville has the ball inside our 10, and Hannibal Twitty, a black teammate, sacks the quarterback. I wanted to kiss Hannibal on the lips. Okay? And trust me, Hannibal's not a good-looking guy. But that's the way we grew up. And it pains me. And I know, and I don't fault the courier at all. This is news. If it's news, you print it. And I'm glad Mr. Jordan was here tonight, because that's his job. If there's an allegation of racism, it's what the NAACP is supposed to do. So it's nobody's fault here. But we can't leave here tonight with a councilman feeling, well, I got handed to me, or a mayor feeling I got it handed to me. We have to leave here tonight saying, okay, we aired our differences. I don't know why the people are here right now. I hope they're here because they're interested and not here to take a shot at one side or another. Because while we're taking shots at each other, the town I love, and I think the town we all love, is really suffering. It's suffering. So, you know what? There are ways to handle things like this, and I think we've opened a good dialogue. I don't know if there's a problem. If there's a problem, I don't think there's going to be one much longer. I think it'll be fixed. And if there isn't a problem, whatever, put it behind us, go in a personnel setting where the Pennsylvania law says you're supposed to do these things, and fix it. And if it's not fixed after you've done it that way, then you come back. But let's put this thing, we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things in this town we have to improve upon, and we're doing a great job in many areas. But let's put this thing, let's take this scab and let it heal, okay? Thank you very much.
Erica Cruz Divine, 741 Mansion Street in the North Ward. And I don't normally speak because he's the vinegar and I'm not. I'm the quiet one, the toned-down version of Tony. But I was offended by the fact that this council insinuated that because my husband was in the police department and seeing sensitive information, that he was somehow going to use this. He was elected because we believed in him and we trusted him, okay? So you're making him out to be this malicious person, and that's not what he is. He has nothing but good intentions for this town, and I hope that you can realize that.
Does anybody else want to speak on the police issue so we can move on? Okay, that ends everything on the police issue. At this time, we have somewhere in the audience, Kurt Schroeder from Gilmore Associates, who is the borough engineer, who also represents the school board. And we brought him in this evening to give everybody, the manager contacted him today and asked him to come in and speak briefly on the dirt pile that's there and the contaminants, so everybody can have a better understanding of how we're dealing with this.
Good evening and thank you. Kurt Schroeder with Gilmore & Associates, and Mr. Dillon asked that I come down and brief the public on what we've been doing with the school district as it relates to the soils and the stockpile of contaminated soils at the school district property that was the former Snyder Girardi elementary school. But our firm was engaged at the end of 2010, at the beginning of 2011, under the new school board's authorization to get a handle on the soils at the site. And the first thing that we did was we requested and received all of the documents that the previous consultants had developed throughout the years of this school being constructed. And we reviewed all of the soils testing and soils reports and correspondence between the school's architect and the construction contractor. And we found that there's very little information other than it was known that the soils were what's considered regulated fill. And what that means is that the soils contain some form of contaminant as defined by the DEP above a certain threshold, which is considered a residential standard. And school property would fall under that residential standard threshold. There are different thresholds between residential and industrial. So without having a whole lot of information, in April of 2011, after being retained by the school district to do more investigation, we actually went to the stockpile and tested it using a backhoe, collecting the samples in the proper manner, and sending them to a laboratory for analysis. We also, at that same time, tested different locations on the former school property. Generally speaking, it's from the stockpile along Buckley towards Beaver, in that upper area, not in the lower area because that was paved over at the time. Still is, I believe. And we found that after reviewing the results and comparing them to the residential statewide health standards established by DEP, there were 3 contaminants above the allowable limits for the residential use. And that is benzoapyrene, lead, and arsenic.
those three contaminants, they were slightly above the allowable limits, and in certain samples, they were very high. And that's not too uncommon. You know, for instance, if certain particles evaluated and it happens to be lead, you're going to get a very high result. But generally speaking, they were slightly above the statewide health standards. So whether it's slightly or whether it's greatly, they all get treated the same. You have to manage this material in a certain fashion. Okay? Problem is, it's a very expensive thing to do, and there's no way around it. So the best thing we can do is spend a great deal of time and care in trying to figure out the extents of it, how much we have of it, and what we can do with it in the most appropriate fashion to be responsible and resolve it with DEP's blessings, getting it approved, and in the least expensive way possible. So, because the taxpayers ultimately have to pay for this. And we can go into how we got here and how we shouldn't have gotten to this point, and we can if I'm asked, but I don't think we need to go there, because here we are today and we need to move forward and figure out what to do with this. So, since that time, since we did that report in April 2011, we've worked with the school district to try to find funding, not just to get rid of the material, but also to put ourselves in a position where we can get funding so that we can try to get rid of the material. So we did a few things, and one thing we did also, I'll just mention this, is we did a conceptual design on that property, because there's a good chance we'll have to keep the material on site and cap it with clean fill. So before just spreading that cap in the way that site is shaped now, we were asked to develop a concept plan for a final reuse. You know, why just grade it the way it is now? If we can regrade that site so that we can put ball fields on there, let's put the cap in that configuration so that we're capped, we're clean, and we can use the site moving forward. So we did do that, simultaneous to the testing and simultaneous to also doing a traffic study for the new traffic patterns for the arrival and dismissal at the school. But anyways, throughout that process also, and doing other services for the school district, we also found out that the DCNR owns a piece of land that bisects that old former school property. It used to house the canal. And the problem with that is it even muddies up this situation even worse, because as the owner of the property, you have to be the applicant to the DEP. And now we have another owner involved here. So we need the DCNR's cooperation. We haven't even gotten to that point yet, because we need funding to get...
DCNR, was that the canal?
It's the, Delaware Conservation Natural Resources, and they've, at some point in history, been given the land that used to be the canal, and they're responsible for maintaining it. They maintain the canal where it still exists, so on and so forth. And there's some more history of that. They lease the land to the school district for its use. I guess, no, they lease it to the borough, and then the borough then subleases it to the school district for their use. But anyways, that's just a little side note. But since the testing results, since we found out what we were dealing with initially, we also worked with the school district to reach out to an environmental attorney. The individual works in a local office. Actually, I believe they're based in Warrington, Pennsylvania. And this guy's very good. He works for the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority. He actually helped write the Act 2 regulations, which is what this type of material falls under. And he actually pledged that he would work with the borough at his discounted rate at what he works for the Redevelopment Authority at. We haven't engaged his services yet because we haven't found funding to do that.
How long ago have we started looking for the funding?
Once the initial report came out in April, I don't know exactly when we met with the Redevelopment Authority. One of the first things that we did, and we consulted with the manager, Jim Dillon, and he got us in touch with Bob White at the Redevelopment Authority. We met with them and said, what funding do you guys have available? We're dealing with a regulated site now, and they have special access to funding, the Redevelopment Authority does. So we met with them. They've given us some ideas on where we can pursue funding. If you know anything about grants, they're only open for certain periods. You have to get your applications within that window. You have to be eligible. And if you don't fall within that certain criteria, you're not eligible. And because the ownership and because of DCNR,
and there's just different variables. It makes it complicated, but we've been trying continuously, and most recently, we were under the impression that there was funding available to do some reporting, because when we did our initial report, we put it in what we called a limited Phase 2 study, which is, it's thick but not thick enough. You first have to do a Phase 1 study, then a Phase 2 study. Phase 1 is documentation, research, history on the property. Phase 2 is you go out and do the testing, and Phase 3 is you do the remediation, and then finally you close the site, and you basically get an approved permit with the DP. They say you have a clean bill of health. They deed restrict the property so that you don't turn back or undo whatever was done to cap it. So we jumped right ahead and we did a limited Phase 2 study because we didn't want to spend the time. We knew that this site had historic uses, textiles and hosieries and so forth. So we jumped right to the testing. We knew that there was a regulated stockpile. We were told that from the school district. So we jumped right to the testing because we wanted to get to the bottom line as quickly as possible. To get funding, we now need to step back and do the full Phase 1, do the full Phase 2, because DP is going to need that anyways to go through their Act 2 program. So we actually thought we had $5,000 secured towards the end of last year. It took a while for the redevelopment authority, the school district, and our firm to get what was an access agreement in place, and then we need an authorization to proceed. We just found out 3 weeks ago the funding's not there. Expired at the end of 2011, and the redevelopment authority couldn't access that. So we're back to square one. We know of a fund that may come up in October. It's like a Brownsfield grant fund. The difficulty with that is we still have to get an environmental attorney to let us know if we can be eligible for that grant. Then we need to do an application. All that takes time and money, engineering dollars, legal dollars. The school district doesn't have a lot of dollars, as you're well aware. So it's like this rock and a hard place that the school district's trying to make progress on this. They're looking to the outside agencies for funding to assist us to do our jobs, the legal attorneys to do their jobs, so we can actually get something to DEP and find out what to do with this stockpile.
Kurt, can I ask you a question? Just because sometimes the lines are a little muddled here. So you're reporting us a work that you did for the school board, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's my only question.
Yes, yeah. And it was because it came up at council, and so Mr. Dillon asked that
Absolutely. No, I understand why you're here. I just want to make sure.
Give an update on that it is being worked on. It's not being ignored.
Kurt, just to bring right up to date, the dirt that is there now has been tested in April of 2011.
Correct.
So there's no reason for this council to vote on retesting dirt that you already know what's in it.
Yeah, basically, we don't need to do any more testing at this time.
Okay.
We wanted to do some more testing, and part of that one proposal we had into the school district included doing a few more tests. We wanted to do testing down along that lower area because if we found clean material on site, we might be able to use that as the cap. And it's a whole lot cheaper than trying to find clean fill from wherever and bringing it to the site. The other option would be to take the contaminated material and remove it to a regulated facility, maybe an industrial use, and that depends on the testing results. You have to do a bunch of testing to take it to a regulated facility or take it to a landfill. But the cost in just looking at that, it could be several $100,000, possibly up to $1 million by the time we're all said and done. And that's why you have to do a lot of investigation, because you have to take that $1 million and you got to keep whittling it down to as low as you can get it. Okay? And the other thing I failed to mention is, you hear arsenic, you hear lead, you hear benzoate-pyrene, and obviously the state sets levels. So they're contaminants that people, the regulators, the doctors feel are harmful to the public. And they set thresholds, and you need to abide by that. And I'm not trying to downplay contaminants or these contaminants. However, when I spoke with our environmental and geologists this morning, I asked them about them. What's the background? Where do you find them? What's the cause of them? Why do we have these here? And he said that they're not uncommon for an urban area. They're not uncommon for an industrial area. The arsenic is a natural product found in soils. It's also used in other old pesticides that were sprayed in, there's another source, in textile and hosiery industrial uses.
How about the end result, like the benzo one? I can't even
The
say that.
benzoate-pyrene?
Yeah.
That is something that you'll find in petroleum products. It is something that, it could be a result of...
Railroad maybe that used to go through there in the Roman...
Potentially, and coal, and when you burn coal and you exhaust coal into the atmosphere, it settles down. That ash that is a result contains benzoate-pyrene.
Now, what are the effects of it? Is that a carcinogen? Is it something that...
I don't know the answer to that. I just honestly don't know. I mean, I'm not an environmental engineer or geologist, and I also am not a doctor. But all I can speak to is that there are thresholds set, and if you're above them, you need to deal with it. If you're below them, it's called clean fill, and this is above it.
Is there any of the ones that were above the threshold that run throughout? Like you said, the lead might have a small sample that may be used that would have lead in it, so that reason why it would test high. Is there any of those contaminants that run through all of the drawings? Or
It varied. Each result has a higher or lower concentration. We didn't find a certain concentration everywhere of it. It varies.
Right. Is any one of those three more,
prevalent?
No, not dangerous. Yeah, that's a good question. Is there any of the three that are more like scattered throughout the whole pile?
That we found each one above the limit in each sample that was taken.
Each sample?
Yes.
How many samples did we do?
I believe it was... There were 8 test pits done in the 2 stockpiles. And when I say 2 stockpiles, I mean the one closest to the parking lot of the new school and the one closest to Buckley Street that backs up to a residence along Buckley Street, not Beaver Street.
Now, when you say test pit, what is that?
A test pit's when you take a backhoe and you dig into the pile and then you grab your samples at that location. So it's not on the surface. You want to get in there and get a more, accurate representation. And then we also did what are called borings, and we did, it looks like 8 borings from closest to the stockpile up by Buckley Street down along Buckley Street towards Beaver. So every 100 feet, every 75 feet. We try to look at the land use and where we get representative samples, some under blacktop, some under lawn, historic use of lawn, etc.
No, not at this time. Once they're done, then we go to the public. Okay, Kurt, I'm sorry.
And like I said, each of the different samples had...
Kurt, can you explain to council, and this question came up the other night, what Mr. Devine's concern is that Mr. Sabatini's concern is that the runoff from the rain is running into the street and may get into this storm system, not the sewer or storm system.
Right.
Is there a concern that, does this contaminant run with water?
These 3 do not, in the historic sense that they migrate through. In other words, if you spill something that doesn't kind of grab onto the soil or isn't part of that soil, if you spill something that's maybe dissolvable in water, then that gets into the water and it travels with the water. But if you have something that's like a particle or that attaches to the particles or that's within the particles, it doesn't flush through with water. So these 3, by nature, do not move through soil. Okay? That's not to say that you can't have something find its way off the site, but you wouldn't expect the concentrations of that moving off the site to be that great because it's all in the dosage too. This is all concentrations we're talking about.
All right, what I'm going to do is go to council. Does anybody have anything for Kurt? Nobody? One thing before I go to the public on this, and I know this is a school issue and we brought you in. I hope we don't spend this group, if you have a lot of issues on this dirt pile, really should go to Thursday night school board meeting and discuss it with the school board, but we brought Kurt in as a courtesy to people that watch it on TV And if they have children that go to the school and there's some concerns, we're trying to clear this up the best we can, but I don't want to speak on behalf, and we have school board members in the audience tonight that are fighting and doing everything they can to balance an $800,000 deficit this year. And not that this dirt pile isn't something that they have on the back burner. They have it. They're doing everything they can as a school board, and they're trying to, they don't want the dirt there. They know it's unsightly there. They want to move the dirt, but they also have to protect the taxpayers of this town who are trying to balance this budget this year, and they don't have $300, $500, or $1 million right now to put in to a dirt pile. So, I mean, I don't know what the solution is, and I'm not here to answer it, but again, if you want to go to a school board meeting, and I think you'll get they're doing everything they can. The school board members that are here this evening can tell you that this is top priority, and they're trying everything and looking at every agency there is for funding, and you're aware of that, Kurt, because you're applying for funding. The message we need, I want the council to understand tonight is that, I think you said to me earlier, that the cost of putting this packet together just to go apply for some funding could run about $30,000 with attorney fees, plus attorney fees.
Yeah.
So the school board could be looking at, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to put a packet together just to go apply, just to be able to apply for funding when they're trying to put a plan in place to, once they know what to do with this dirt, like you said, it may stay on site, it may go off site, but nobody has this, and I don't want to sit here and defend the school board. They could defend themselves, but nobody is sitting here saying they're happy that this dirt pile is sitting where it's sitting. It should have never been put there in the beginning. It should have been part of the school project, and it should have been removed at that time. But that's here and there. They are working on it. They're doing everything they can, but their first thing is to balance an $800,000 deficit to keep the school open. Okay, I'm going to go to the public, and Kurt, you might as well stay there because I don't have any answers for contaminants or anything. So I'll start with this gentleman. George, you want to go to the podium, please?
I'm speak loud.
Okay.
My question is that I grew up here in Bristol, moved away in '78. When Mako was there, Mako Chemical, you probably remember it, the smell that place would put off, was that a sole entity? Did someone absorb that company? Because I believe that a lot of those heavy metals would come from that. Because we used to have to go inside when they blow their whistle. I cannot help but believe that some of the pollution on site there is, number one, from the process of doing woolen mills, and number two, Mako. So if Mako was bought wholly or a piece, I think you may be able to get them to do some cleanup there, because it would be their headed.
I
Does
couldn't
anyone
answer
know?
it.
That was my question.
I don't know who bought Mako, or did the borough buy it?
Was it bought?
That's where the rink is. The borough bought the Mako building, and that berm that goes all the way down there is contaminated soil.
My question was, you bought the Mako building, but was the Mako company
I
absorbed
have-
to say Joe's Bar and Grill and Chemical Company?
George, that's before my time. I don't know. I mean,
Well, that was after.
maybe stop in and we can get you whatever document. Mr. Salerno, you want to comment on it?
I don't know the answer to the question, but it was actually, I think, the Grundy Foundation that purchased the property. Now, whether it was Mako or some other company that had acquired them, I don't know. But it was actually the Grundy Foundation that purchased it, and then they deeded it over to the borough for the building of the rink. And at that point, the environmental issue, just like here, had been taken care of. And the way they took care of it, which is allowed, is they bermed it, okay? Now, I was not on council or solicitor at the time, I would think that if there was a way to have gone after them for that they would have done that at the time, and they didn't. So,
I kind of think outside of the box, because where I have a house in New York, I'm going through the same thing with Endicott Johnson, the shoe company, and 3M, or not 3M, but IBM, with the TCEs and the, these are all heavy metals that seeped into the ground.
it's a good thought. And the other thing I spoke with Kurt earlier, is like he said, these contaminants can be from any industrial, and there were plenty of industrial sites in that area, one on this property, there was Mako across the street, and there were other ones. To try to pinpoint the source might be almost impossible, but let me say this. If and when the school district does retain this environmental attorney, that will be certainly one thing we asked them, if we can go after anybody for that. Well, problem is, a lot of these companies are gone,
That's exactly.
or they're worthless. Well, I think it's a good question, but I would think if that was a possibility, it would have been done when the rink was built, and it wasn't. Merle, I don't know if Merle's...
I believe when Grundy brought the property and the buildings were tore down, some of the contaminated soil was taken out of there. But I'm sure they have all of the information at Grundy. They would know that.
Yeah, I'm sure they have all the documentation to show that they either removed it or covered it appropriately, but I don't remember seeing anything where they were able to go after anybody for that liability.
Thanks, George.
Good question.
Good question. Mike, you want to go to the podium, please?
I just had a question.
The problem is, you guys can talk, but nobody at home's going to hear you, so.
That's probably a good thing.
Mike Marizzi, I live on 816 3rd Avenue. My question is that since these contaminants don't migrate through the soil with water or rain runoff, is there any advantage to constructing a silt fence and hay baling around there? Is it worth spending that kind of money to contain the soil?
That's a good question, and the answer would be yes. It is good to try to keep it from leaving the site. Silt fence is a good mechanism.
Just thought it might be a cheap alternative.
And
It's not going to get moved anytime soon.
getting vegetation to grow helps to keep soil where it belongs. And then, of course, putting a barrier up. The school district's already kept students from going up there and playing on it as their own policy. If they become aware of people coming onto that property, and they may need to put up a stockade fence around the property to keep people from going on to
They
it.
definitely have to do that. They have to, because there are kids on that hill all the time. And there's an opening there, so we definitely need to at least get a fence there.
All right. Mike, anything else? Anybody else on this side of the room? Please go to the podium and state your name.
Charles Groff, 262 Madison Street. I'm here as a parent, member of the community, and I just so happen to be a member of the school board. And I also just got a copy of the very same report that this gentleman's holding. And I'll address my concerns with this on Thursday at the school board meeting, but I'm here to say that as a parent and a member of the community, you got to help us out. There's some stuff in this dirt that, from their own conclusions in this report, it's been a year since this report was made, and some of the things that he said this evening that the school district's doing, I'm not aware of. I'm just getting in because I'm the newest member, and there's a lot of things that kind of happened all at once. But from what I've seen so far in this report, this is a serious problem, and it's a more serious problem than saying it's the school districts and we don't want to be involved. We really need to work together and try to get this addressed in a timely fashion and resolved in some way.
But what do you want council to do?
I would have to talk to the board because I'm not here as a board member, but I will do that on Thursday, and I think that we should try to work together in some way. How, I don't know, because I'm not done reading this report, but from what I've seen so far, I wouldn't want anybody near that dirt pile. I think there should be a guard at that dirt pile.
I think that our engineer, I feel confident with his statement that there's no radioactive material coming off of this dirt pile.
I totally agree with that statement. There is no
If-
radioactive material, but there's enough other materials that are in this dirt pile, and when you're there, you can see the remnants from where kids have made paths on this hill for bicycles or whatever else they do. I'm told people are sledding on this in the wintertime.
Well, I think the school board at the least, and I think Mr. Dillon sent out our public works director and the school's maintenance director, Mr. Cullen, went out and they looked at the area, and they, at the least, will put up a security fence around this dirt pile. And
think that's a great
they will post signs that say, private property, keep off. So I think that is, the first step that everybody could take. But as far as the borough trying to force the school board to remove this dirt, we're then forcing you to put maybe $1 million burden on your taxpayers.
I'm not asking you to force us to do anything. I'm asking to get together and try to work together on this issue for
Well,
a common resolution.
I think whatever the school board needs, and I know, like you say, you just got elected, we have bent over backwards and did anything that the school needed us to do, and we have a great cooperation with them.
I'm not familiar with any of that. Like I said, I've only been a member for a couple of months, and I'm still getting information. I requested the previous soil test reports, and I'm still in the process
Well, they
of
were
trying to
just
get
done
them.
in 2011. and
I have a
you-
copy of that
You
report, but I
listened
wanna
to
get
Kurt, who's
earlier.
saying you don't need to retest it. It's not going to change.
Actually, his report does say it needs to be retested.
Not the pile. Kurt, you want to explain to him?
Yeah, they
your-
said that there needs to be further testing done
Right.
to get money through the redevelopment authority.
And I
So-
think what he said earlier was that the testing wasn't the pile, it was around it in other areas.
Right, well, like I said, I'm still reading the report, but I'm
Okay.
telling you that from what I read, I think that it's a town problem for all of us to try to work together. And I'm going to suggest the same thing to the board on Thursday. That's all. I'm
We
here
haven't-
not as
we
a
ha-
board member, but as a parent and a member of the community, and I'm saying, I think we all need to try to work together on this. Now, as a board member, Thursday, I'm going to ask the board the same thing. Can we put a request into council that we all sit down together, talk, and try to work out a resolution for this?
Okay. Kurt, you want to explain that you have a plan in place and everything?
Like I said before, we have to get the documentation and the testing and the data and everything in a certain format so that we can have it reviewed and approved by the DEP. So there is more work that needs to be done. Like I said, we tried to get as much information as we could on a very shoestring budget that the school district found money available for us to do back in April. But there's more work that needs to be done. We're trying to find funding. We thought we had $5,000. We found out 3 weeks ago, I think it was February 1st, we got an email from the redevelopment authority that the money's no longer there. And also to speak on cooperation with the borough, we've had a great deal of cooperation with the borough. So far, Mr. Dillon's dedicated a lot of time and stayed involved in this. And the borough's even kicked around the idea of using open space money. Towards the end of last year, you'll remember the borough, there was an idea of the borough use the open space money that they got through the County of Bucks toward this site to mitigate, to remediate it. The problem with that was that the money can only be used if the site is clean. So we have to get the site clean, and then maybe there's an opportunity to use that money. But, you know, the borough has been very cooperative with the school district.
Kurt, I got a question. Now,
You excuse me 1 minute. Let's just try to get through public participation. And then you can ask them all the questions you want. Anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak on any issue? Any issue? Anybody on this side of the room would like to speak on any issue? One at a time.
Say my name again.
Sure.
Jason Grizzolea, 583 Linden Street. Mr. Dillon, I have a couple concerns regarding the property on Mifflin and Linden Street, the Pico property, all the work that's being done over there. Did you happen to see the pictures that Mr. Miller was presented with the night of the meeting at Number 3's Firehouse?
I don't remember, to tell you the truth. Do you have copies of them?
I do. I can give them to you when I'm done. And also, did we contact anybody at Pico about fixing the street that is not level? After all the work that they did over that area, they repaved a beautiful street, pretty crappy if you ask me. And when it rains, the water sits on some places, sits in some places on the road and not others. Obviously, there's a problem with the way it's running off. It's not level. And we've been pretty fortunate that it hasn't been a bad winter. But God forbid, if it does, we get any kind of precipitation and it does ice up, it's going to be pretty dangerous. The other day, there was a tanker truck on that property over by the firehouse, over by Pico. And they were there pretty late, 6:30 maybe, and they were sucking stuff out of the ground. Do you have any idea what they were doing over there?
Did you call anyone?
I believe Mr. Dillon was around the area that day.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes,
Dillon was
he
over
called
there.
someone.
And
Yes,
yes,
he called me.
and Ms. Trunell has been a great help in this whole situation. She really has. She's been very responsive to everything that we've called her. She's been extremely helpful in this whole situation. Matter of fact, she was one of the only people, her and Mr. Miller, at the meeting that the people from Pico had over at number 3's firehouse. Ms. Trunell, I think Mr. Winslow was there, and Mr. Miller. They were the only 3 representatives from the area that were there. And I find, when I see that, it seems to me that they're the only people that really care about what's going on over there. I don't think it's fair. It looks it looks like Beirut over there.
Usually, Jason, how things are handled is since it's in the West Ward,
Yeah.
Robin will handle any issues with Betty over there.
Okay.
And bring it back to council. If it was in the East Ward, Lorraine and Greg would handle that. We can't go to every meeting, no matter, unless it's something that
Not that we don't care.
really is urgent but we're aware of everything that goes on because Mrs. Trunell has been advising us. We get letters in our packets. The manager advises us. I spoke to your mom about issues over there, so I don't think anybody's ignoring the problem of what's going on over there.
Okay, maybe I'm just being impatient.
Maybe.
I
You
just
just
want
want
some.
to talk for a while.
No, it's not that. I really would like something, something to get done over there.
Well,
And just
why don't
one
we
last thing I have.
Let me
is-
just say something, that Pico's position is it may take up to 2 more years of work over there before they close that site. That's
Thanks.
what I think has been in the report.
Thanks for making my night better.
So once they're done, one thing we can assure you is Pico's not going to leave the site, unsightly, or they're going to do what they have to do.
And in some of these pictures I have here, there's excess of, a foot of water sometimes after it rains over there.
Well, let's
And
get
they-
them
they
in this
just
week.
put-
and-
It seems like they're just putting stuff in where the trench used to be. So there's no drains on Linden Street or Mifflin Street, I don't think. And that was the only source of drainage that we've had. And now that's level ground there. There used to be a nice trench there where the water would run back there when it,
I'm
when it
sure
was...
Mrs. Trunell will meet with the manager tomorrow, and they'll be on this first thing.
John Miller was there that night, Ralph, and John looked at the pictures, and I think John was going to get a report back to Mr. Dillon about that, so
All
he
right.
said the same thing. You just need to swell on either side where the,
you're more than, Mr. Dillon, you're more than welcome to take these. You want me to bring them up to you?
Anything else, Jason? All right, anybody else on this side of the room would like to speak? I guess that ends public participation.
Sir, I had a couple questions for you, if you don't mind. The reason why I'm asking is I want to make sure that the North Ward, the residents of the North Ward know that there's something being done. We are in the process, and we have a motion on here I want to be able to split the cost between the council and the school district. I believe, even though we are 2 separate entities, I think the number one thing is we're all the same borough. And if the hard time that they're having over at the school district, if we could do something to help them, to help get rid of this pile, right? All I want to know is this. I want to be able to set up, you said that we still have to do We got to continue with the Phase 1 reports and the background history. We have the Phase 2, but we need the full Phase 2 study.
Right.
Now, we need to get all these things together in a packet before we even think about getting reimbursed or getting a grant, right?
Yeah, it puts us in a better position to secure funding, and it gives us something that we can take to DEP and say, here's what we have, here's how we want to deal with it.
Okay, with that being said, I want to make sure that I don't want to miss that opportunity, like you said, the grants only come in certain windows. I don't want to miss that opportunity because we're not prepared with a package. So I'm looking at, what is the number, ballpark figure, the number that we need to do to get this packet together?
Hopefully I'm prepared to answer that tonight. If I say a number,
All right, that's why I said ballpark. Yeah, I'm not
ballpark,
but ballpark.
magnitude of cost,
Yep.
where we're talking. We're probably between, soup to nuts for that, Phase 1, Phase 2, like $15,000, maybe $20,000.
And if I may interject for 1 second, with this issue, I know, in trying to do some research myself, when asking the redevelopment authority what the process is to secure more money, one thing they did say is that there is a process going on and that it may be completed in June. So as far as timing goes, I do think there is a little time, but that's just from what I get.
Okay, so that leads me to, who's
Unless you
all
understand something different.
I didn't understand, I just want
Well,
to
the
make sure I
redevelopment
understood.
authority was saying that there may be funds available for us down the road. Not to do this in June, but there's a bigger grant that they may be working on that they may be able to help us.
Yeah, I think the applications might open in June. I think October was one of the months I had Brownfields grant, but...
So whatever they may be working on, I'm saying that they seem to indicate that there was some time for that.
I got another question, I don't know who can answer this. Who's all part of this process with the redevelopment authority and talking together so we can all get together? I would like to be a part of that, I don't know who's on that.
It's the school board.
Thing. None of us are on it.
Yeah, we've been working recently with Greg Wright, the superintendent. I haven't even had meetings with him. I've only briefed him on this, and he now understands what we've done so far and what we need to do. Joe Rowe, the business manager, has been involved in this. Ralph DiGiuseppe has been very involved. He's been making contacts. He spoke to Waste Management, see if there's options there. He met with Tommy Tomlinson a couple weeks ago, talking about whether or not he has any resources or any funds or anything he can tap into for the school district. Bill Salerno's been involved. Jim Dillon's been involved. Our firm. And
Okay, so I guess I understand what you're saying. I guess my question only is the question I asked you. All right, so ballpark 15 to 20,000 to get it to the position that we need it, so that way when that window opens up, we'll be ready.
There might be a few $1,000s to get the grant applications together. There's an attorney that would be involved, and he would have his own fees.
But all the testing, I'm not going to really worry about the attorneys until we don't need attorneys to do the Phase 1 and the Phase 2.
They're good to guide it. They're
All
good
right.
to help guide it.
Okay.
Because they play a very pivotal role, and the environmental attorneys are very important, hand in hand with the work that we do.
All right, so just so I have a ballpark, because it is my ultimate goal, and I know a lot of people on the council feel a certain way to keep it separate, but we are the same tax base. That's the way I feel. We are the same tax base. So whether it comes out of this pocket or this pocket, it's coming out of their pocket, the taxpayer. So I want to be able to work, I think hopefully there are some ways and there's some monies that we might have access to try to make it easier. You know what I mean? So, because I put on it in a motion for today, and I guess it's only for 2,500, which I guess I'm going to have to change that for the next one. If I make a motion, right?
You could change it tonight.
Oh, you can change it tonight? Okay. All right, that's it. Thanks, Kirk.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kirk.
Okay. Before we go into our regular thing, I closed public participation.
You missed it.
Monday,
Coach. Oh, my God, look.
Monday, can I have everybody's attention, please? No. February 27th at 7 p.m., we're going to have a meeting with our investment management company to discuss the water plant money. I'm going to ask Kurt, while you're here, Kurt, if you would meet with the War Memorial Monument people to try to help them out on engineering assistance with the monument. They want to get this project started as soon as possible, and I think we need to do everything we can to help them move this along. All right, at this time, I'm going to go to item number 2 on the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of 1/9/23, and 2/6, to accept the treasurer's report for December, to accept the police and GJ's report for January, to accept the fire chief's report for January, to accept the borough inspector's report for January, and to accept the HARB report for January 30th.
Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Trinnell. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to adopt an ordinance repealing ordinance number 1210, the sex offender residency ordinance.
Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Cullen. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4.
Mr. President, I'd like to adopt an ordinance prohibiting no left turns at certain locations per school traffic improvement study.
I have a second. Second by Mr. Polinsky. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5.
President, I'd like to make a resolution authorizing purchase of Bucks County tax parcel 040240341027 Elm Street.
Second by Mr. Pezza. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. And it's not because I'm emotionally attached, but I am emotionally attached to Elm Street. But what are the plans for these properties that we're spending? I understand that they are in bad shape, but I just feel bad, for the people who still live there. Like, I brought this up a while ago. Just, what are the plans for these properties after we buy them up?
Tear everything down.
Tear everything down? Now, in the process, we're losing the tax revenue from these properties. And another question I had to ask, I'm not sure. Are we still, do we still have to pay the street taxes on those properties?
No.
No? All right. Now, after they're torn down and, I guess what we call the blight will be gone, is it going to be used as open space to maybe like extend that, the Grundy Park where the trail is, or do we have any idea of what we just...
Not at all.
Okay.
And we looked into, Tony, renting them because we felt, there are still people there that we're all friends with on Elm Street that, you don't want to just start putting plywood up, but these homes are so bad that it would cost you so much money to renovate, it just wouldn't.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. But on the other hand, we would never force anybody out either.
Right.
So we maintain it, we cut the grass, we try to do the best we can to make it look good.
Gotcha.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 6.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the time extension for the Amish Market land development to July 31st, 2012, per letter dated 1/9/12.
Second. Second by Ms. Cullen. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize Towns Against Graffiti annual donation of $1,500, and well worth it.
I have a second. Second by Mr. Polinsky. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 8.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve the license agreement at NovaCare Center with Bernard Mazzocchi.
I have a second by Mrs. Cullen. Any questions or comments? Just so everybody knows, Mr. Salerno, you want to comment on this? Or?
Yeah, I don't know if it came through in your copies. This, I just want to clarify, this is a draft. In fact, I probably will be making at least one change. This has not been submitted to the owner, and he has not accepted it. I think the whole idea is this is what the offer is going to be from council. We're going to offer him a license agreement, and we'll see what the response is, and we'll go from there. But I just want it understood that this hasn't been negotiated. This is just our draft of our proposal.
So I think what Mr. Pezza wanted to do is if Mr. Mazzocchi accepts this proposal, it's already been voted on.
Correct.
If he doesn't accept it, it will come back in front of council.
Understood.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 9.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to authorize appropriate borough officials to sign agreement with the county and the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority for casino funds for the Public Works facility.
I have a second. Second by Mr. Pezza. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. What are the other projects that we can use these funds for? Or does it have to be specifically driven to a project?
It's basically projects that pertain roads, things like that. So the money we got for the Public Works facility is because our snow plows and our police officers, and there's going to be a gas station there, will be patrolling Route 13, and it's the road leading to the casino, and our argument was that we're in this donut area and we were entitled to some money, and I think if it wasn't for the county commissioners, we wouldn't have, they had to approve our grant. So we're not entitled to anything. But when you do apply, the grant has to be specific for basically things that I'm talking, emergency management, stuff like that.
Okay, so basically, all the money that we get from that just goes right into the public
Capital
works?
Improvement Fund,
This grant,
Okay.
this particular grant.
this grant.
Nope.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Number 10.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve mutual general release agreement and covenant not to sue between Bursage Associates and Bristol Borough.
Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Collin. Any questions or comments? Our solicitor, we discussed 2 items in the executive session before the meeting. One was the purchasing suit, and the other one was the Diaz suit. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 11.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the settlement of Diaz versus Bristol Borough.
Second. Second by Ms. Trinnell. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 12.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize advertising an ordinance for a 4-way stop sign at Canals End and Maple Beach Roads.
I have a second. Second by Mr. Plansky. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 13.
Number 13, authorize sharing costs with school districts for testing of dirt on school district property.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know this process, to be honest with you, but if you would like to table a motion in the sense of not saying no, not saying yes, but saying at this point in time, which is my stance, that I don't really know what we'd be voting on. I think we want to hear more from the school board. I think we all realize it's a school board issue. We don't lack sympathy for that issue, and if we know what we're even voting on, things may be a little bit different. So long story short, I don't know the process.
Well,
of
table will supersede Tony's motion.
Okay, well, I would like to table that motion in lieu of finding out what the school board's plan is
Okay.
and what we would be
So
helping with them.
We have a table on the floor. You want to do a roll call vote, Mrs. Fields?
Mr. Devine?
No.
Mr. Pezza?
Yes.
Ms. Cullen?
Yes to table.
Ms. Trinnell?
Yes.
Mr. Plansky?
Yes, the table.
Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Yes.
It's carried 5.
Number 14.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve change order number 16 for the fuel pump upgrade at Public Works facility in the amount of $22,966.
Second. Second by Ms. Cullen. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. What benefit does it help the borough with? Why does this benefit the borough, the change order?
Putting in a better system.
Right. Well, another question. Why wasn't it a better system in the original plan?
When we first put the building out to bid, there was I don't know how you want to put it, but there was a design not from an engineer, from a couple people saying, I think we went to Bayer Pump and we went to some local people to get their opinion on the pumps and everything. And as we got into the job, we had them come out and do a demonstration, and the demonstration they did probably would work, but it wouldn't work for X amount of gallons per year. And then the DEP said to us that when you're pumping over 20,000 of gasoline a year, you have to have a vapor recovery system on your tanks. So therefore, we got into another whole system. We then brought in Steve Cullen from Allied Electronics, who've been in the gas station business selling pumps and all for over 30 years, and he advised us on what pumps should be put in down there and would suit the borough for many years to come. The service end of it, that everybody's local that can fix this pump if it went down and everything. So he did all this at no cost, and his company also did all this at no cost. We're not buying nothing from them. It's still going. It went in as a change order to the original company that bid this project. So we feel confident that Mr. Cullen gave us the right information. None of us here are experts on it. I think he is, and we're taking his recommendation. He looked at all the paperwork that they submitted us. He priced it out as if he was going to sell it to us, and said they gave us a very good number on the equipment and the installation. So I'm going on his recommendation, and that's where we're at right now.
Can we ask Mr. Cullen the same question? Steve, what is the major difference between the one that we had in the first plans and then the new one?
When I first looked at this project, the volume of gas was the big issue. Okay, once like we found out the borough was doing $20,000 gallons of gas a year. Once you go over 10, you have to have a vapor recovery system in there. Now, that's exactly what it's doing. It's catching the vapors, putting it back into the tank and keeping the environment, pretty clean.
The first one didn't have that.
Yeah, the first one was, right, because you were allowed to, if you were pumping under a certain amount of gallons, not to have that kind of system. And another thing I did find out too, because of the volume that the borough decided to pump, the original specs for that, the pumping unit was way too small, where you could have put it in there, it would have probably in like 2 months, you've probably been replacing it. I mean, because it was more like for a small fleet, like if you had like
It's like buying a
tractors and stuff like that.
commercial instead of a retail.
Right,
product.
because you're going to fill 20 vehicles, you're going to have a lot of people there. You need that card system also to tie into this. So there's pulsers and things that need to communicate with your card systems. And, it was the right thing to do, and it was the thing you had to do.
Right.
Because like I said, down the road, you would have been constantly out there replacing stuff. And then the other thing too is you're helping the environment out by recovering that vapors and, keeping all that there.
Okay.
It's definitely a step up.
Thanks, Steve.
From where you
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 15.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the purchase of furniture and files from Corporate Environment Groups Incorporated per the state bid list not to exceed $18,500 per proposal dated 1/31/12.
Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Plensky. Questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. 18,005, what furniture does this include? Does this include like their locker room furniture, or is this desks and chairs?
Desk, chairs, file cabinets, workstations for fax machines, computers, all the furniture that they need to operate. 3 tables in a break room. There's a complete layout. Was it in everybody's?
Right.
Okay. Any other questions?
No other questions?
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
Number 16.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to ratify change orders number 9, $2,585 deduction, number 10, $1,144 additional Number 11, $700 additional. Number 13, $1,634 additional. Number 14, $2,665 additional. Number 15, $9,215.45 additional.
Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Cullen. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, when I get here's what I want to do with the boards and commissions. I'm going to mention the name of the person that's term is expired, and when we reappoint or we reappoint somebody else, it will be to the current term, because some of these expired and then they're going to be, so we're voting on bringing it current to what it is. So when I mention the name, if nobody else has another nomination at that point, I'll just say all in favor. If there's another nomination at that point, we'll go to a roll call vote. Does everybody understand?
Yes.
So we can move this as quick as possible. On the Recreation Authority,
Well, before, I would like to make a motion also to table, and me being a rookie, I also am not familiar with the process. But before I make a motion to table these appointments, I would like, before we do this, to make the public aware, because there are a lot of positions that I'm sure,
there's a motion on the floor to table, correct?
yes, there's a motion on the
Okay.
floor, but not yet. Before I make my motion, I want to say
There
this.
isn't a motion. It's either a motion to
All right,
table.
well, this is what I'm saying. I'm going to, right now, I'm going to read something before I make a motion. Am I allowed to do that?
Whatever you want to do.
Thank you very much. All right, so again, before I make my motion, I would like to make the public aware of these positions, because we just got the packet on Friday. Me being brand new, there are 12 different boards and commissions that we're going to appoint. There are 56 names. And I'm not sure, and I'm sure Mr. Pezza feels the same way, being brand new, that we didn't have a lot of time to go over this. And I'm sure there are people in the community that would be great on certain boards and different committees, and that would like the opportunity to apply, and we could get some information before I make a decision. Because, I mean, I want to hire or appoint the most educated, the most qualifications in each position. I just don't want it to be, again, just something that we appoint just to put a rubber stamp on it and go forward. So with that said,
We have a motion.
or with that said, I would like to make a motion to table the appointment.
Okay. So motion to table or not to table? Roll call vote.
Mr. Devine?
Yes.
Mr. Pezza?
No.
Cullen?
No.
Ms. Trinnell? No. Mr. Plansky? Mr. Di Giuseppe?
No. Okay, let's go back to where we were. First Recreation Authority, 5-year term, Robert Tosty. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 2 is Pat Sabatini filled the term of Irene Wycroft. That's been voted on. Joe Rowe. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Bruce Harris. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Joe Ferrugio. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Water and Sewer Authority, Gary Tosty. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Rosary McGoney. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Fred Fields. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Art Mancuso. No other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Civil Service Commission, Robin Trinnell. Other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Chet DeMarcus. No other nominations?
Yeah, I got a nomination. I'd like to nominate Dave Gerard, known around town as a super
Okay,
honest
you
and
don't-
fair businessman. I would like to
We
nominate
have a
Dave.
nomination on the floor for Dave Gerard or Chet DeMarcus. Roll call vote. Ms. Fields?
Mr. Devine?
Dave Gerard.
Mr. Pezza?
Chet DeMarcus.
Ms. Cullen?
Chetty Marcus.
No.
Chet DeMarcus.
Mr. Plansky?
Chet DeMarcus.
Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Chet DeMarcus. Historic Architectural Review Board, Joseph Malone. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Heather Quattrochi. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Karen Riccio. I'm sorry, Karen Riccio, it's been appointed. Barbara Fear. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Rich Murphy. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Beverly Kalinowski has resigned, and I got a name of,
I'd like to nominate Cheryl LaRosa from 503 Radcliffe Street.
any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Environmental Advisory Committee, Susan Raichlen. Any other nominations?
Yes, I have one. Hermie Rivera.
We have a motion on the floor for Hermie Rivera or Susan Raichlen. Fields, roll call.
Mr. Devine?
Hermie Rivera.
Mr. Pezza?
Susan Raichlen.
Cullen?
Susan Raichlen.
Ms. Trinnell?
Susan Raichlen.
Mr. Plansky?
Susan Rachel.
Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Susan Raichlen.
Ms. Raichlen?
Don West. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Francis Lorenzo. Any other nominations? All those in favor? Just before we go on to the next one, I just want to mention that Susan Raichlen works for the Bucks County Board of Health and is a major part of our Environmental Advisory Committee.
And I would also like to make a comment that I didn't know anything about Susan Raichlen, and
We
it
know,
wasn't in my
Tony.
packet.
We know. Human
Wait,
Relations.
is it, I don't understand why it's okay for you.
We know.
You don't know, I don't know.
Okay, well,
That's what I said.
that's why I was explaining to the public
Oh,
this
then you-
girl's qualifications.
I would like to know that, so I can...
Why didn't you ask today? You got this on Friday. Did you call the manager or anybody and
All right, let
say,
me ask you a question. Do you think...
Tony, I want to move along.
56 people on it that we have to appoint, do you think that's enough time? I don't even know what 3 of these committees do.
Well, this council here appointed mostly everybody here, and they're happy with it.
But we need to talk about it.
All right,
don't we?
Human Relations Commission, Ellen Callahan. Any other nominations?
Yes, I have a nomination. Her daughter, Bridget Callahan.
Ellen, do you want the seat or not? It doesn't matter to me.
I'll keep, but I don't care, Bridget.
Okay. We're all, you got Ellen or Bridget, let's vote on it. Right, I'd rather just stay with the people we have.
Still wants it.
Mr. Devine?
Bridget Callahan.
Mr. Pezza?
Ellen Callahan.
Cullen?
Ellen, because she still wants it. I mean,
2-1.
Let's just move this.
Ms. Trinnell?
Ellen.
Mr. Plansky?
Ellen Callahan.
Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Ellen.
you do a good job.
Okay. Next one is Ellen Scansella. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Linda McLean. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Maria Chicoletti. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Ted Leone. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Jane Accabetti. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Patricia Mancuso. Any other nominations?
Yes, I have one. I'd like to nominate Carrie Ayala from Buckley Street.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Mr. Devine?
Carrie Ayala.
Pezza?
Patricia Mancuso.
Cullen?
Patricia Mancuso.
Ms. Trinnell?
Mancuso.
Plansky? Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Patricia Mancuso. Planning Commission, 4-year term, Sam LaRosa. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Frank Mosco. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mike Saracelli. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Harry Crow. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Doyle. Any other nominations?
Yes, I have one. Mr. Lanseri on Mansion Street,
You know his first name?
Alfonso. They call him Fonzie, if you didn't know who he was. Oh, okay, I was just wondering.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Devine?
Mr. Alfonso Lanseri.
Mr. Pezza?
John Doyle.
Collins?
John Doyle.
Mr. Nell?
John Doyle.
Mr. Plansky? Mr. Di Giuseppe?
John Doyle.
Mr. Doyle.
For a 5-year term. Stevie Wade. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Cindy Wade. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Fred Cullen. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Greg Pinelli said that he wanted to resign. Therefore, Mrs. Cullen gave us the name of Maria Ciccoletti. So we have Maria Ciccoletti on the table. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Zoning Board, I'll explain, we have to fill the seat that Greg Pezza had to resign when he won his council seat, so I'm looking for a nomination for that seat.
I would like to nominate Miss Andrea Harvey for that seat.
Do I have any other nominations?
Yes, I have a nomination. I would like to nominate Mark Bartuska. He
Roll,
has 30-plus years experience
call
in the
vote.
building trade, and he's well-versed in reading blueprints, which I think is very important that we have somebody in that position
roll call
that is
vote.
able to do the job.
Mr. Devine?
Mark Bartuska.
Mr. Pezza?
Andrea Harvey.
Ms. Cullen? Andrea Harvey. Mr. Nell?
Andy Harvey.
Mr. Plansky?
Andrea Harvey.
Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Andy Harvey. Next seat is Angelo Catroci. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Angelo Grizzolea. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nancy Shaw, who is the first alternate. Any other nominations?
Yes, I have another nomination. I would like to nominate again Mark Bartuska, who again has 30 years plus experience in the building trades.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Devine?
Mark Bartuska.
Pezza?
Nancy Shaw.
Cullen?
Nancy Shaw.
Mr. Nell?
Nancy Shaw.
Mr. Plansky?
Nancy Shaw.
Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Nancy Shaw. Our second alternate position was Andy Harvey. It now needs to be filled with somebody, so I'm looking for a nomination.
I'd like to make a nomination. I'd like to nominate Dave Gerard, who's been a roofer for a long time, well-respected, businessman and person in the community.
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Paul Marchese, he's an architect.
Anybody other nominations? Roll call vote.
Mr. Devine?
Mark Bartuska.
Now, you put up Gerard this time. You're
Oh.
getting confused.
Sorry about that. Dave Gerard. Sorry about that, Dave.
Mr. Pezza?
Paul Marchese.
Ms. Cullen?
Paul Marchese.
Mr. Nell?
Paul Marchese.
Mr. Plansky? Mr. Di Giuseppe?
Paul Marchese. And the seat that Francis Catani expired, there's a vacancy there for a third alternate, and at this time, I'm looking for nominations.
I'd like to make a nomination to that seat in the mold of what Tony's been saying about wanting someone that can read blueprints, is a builder, is also in the mode of getting some younger people in the community involved. I'd like to nominate Scott DeMarcus for that vacancy.
Any other nominations?
Yes, I have a nomination. I would like to nominate Bobby Baiocchi, who's also an engineer.
Any other nominations? Roll call vote.
Mr. Devine?
Bobby Baiocchi.
Mr. Pezza,
Scott DeMarcus.
Ms. Cullen,
Scott DeMarcus.
Mr. Brunel,
Scott DeMarcus.
Mr. Linsky,
Scott DeMarcus.
Mr. Di Giuseppe.
Scott Marcus. And just for the record,
That was
Mr. Bioki is Mr. Pez's best friend.
That is true.
What does that mean? He's not qualified for the position?
No, but it was...
He's an engineer.
Our police civilian complaint review board start with Dr. Manarino. Any other appointments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Diane Hoffner. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Denise Ricchio. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mary Murphy. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Joe Santone. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
Felipe Baracall. Any other nominations? All those in favor?
Aye.
This time, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.